Good evening, Robert Scribbler. It is July 6, 2018. Welcome to another one of my climate and clean energy video blogs. Now, for this segment, I'm going to provide you with an update on the present state of Arctic sea ice and the present Arctic climate state in general. Now, what we are seeing now is Arctic sea ice extent in the range of 7th lowest on record, and this is a measure that includes sea ice extent from the early 1980s onward. And what we see is that presently sea ice is about 1.9 million square kilometers below the 1980s average, and about 500,000 square kilometers, a little less than 500,000 square kilometers above the record low for the date. Now, during this period of time, we see rapid daily losses in sea ice, so sea ice measures can change rather swiftly in early July, and we have a number of reasons why we might see some wagging, but in general, the present trend is pointing toward around a little less than 5 million square kilometers by the end of the melt season in 2018, which would put us in the range, in about the average range for the 2010s, but rather, well, about 1 million square kilometers above record lows. Now, this is not a prediction, it's just an extrapolation of the present trend. And as we've seen with the Arctic recently, things can change rather rapidly. Now, looking at the satellite shot, we see a lot of cloud and smoke cover primarily due to large wildfires raging over Siberia and in Eastern Siberia. For some reason, the NASA hotspot indicator is not showing up wildfires in Eastern Siberia, but if you zoom in, you can see some very large smoke plumes coming in from the surface, and if you zoom even closer, you can see the large smoke rings that are indicative of large wildfires burning in through the peat zones of this region of Siberia, and these are very aggressive wildfires, very smoky wildfires, as is typical with far northern Arctic wildfires that burn through the boggy peat regions, the permafrost thaw zones. Now, as for sea ice, we have large open areas of water in the Chukchi Sea, a rapidly melting zone in the Eastern Siberian Sea due to much warmer than normal temperatures running in through this region. As of recent days, in fact, we saw 95 degrees Fahrenheit reading in northeastern Siberia above the Arctic Circle in a permafrost zone here, right near where these wildfires are burning. So very intense surface temperatures in the near Arctic Ocean zone. Of course, over the Arctic Ocean, we don't see temperatures anywhere near that high, mainly ranging in the 40s and possibly 50s in the near coastal region to in the mid to upper 30s as you get further out into the Arctic ice zone. Laptev Sea is also showing a very large area of open water, and sea surface temperatures in here are quite warm. We're going to look at some sea surface temperature measurements a little bit later. And into the Kara Sea, we have rapid ice melt and ice loss in this zone as some storms roll in. We have seen some sea ice expansion spreading out in the Greenland Strait region and north of Svalbard, and this is primarily due to a low pressure system which is circulating over the central Arctic, and this tends to spread the ice out a bit. And into Baffin Bay, we're seeing rapid ice melt, as well as in the Hudson Bay region. Now, overall, oh, I'm sorry, I need to take a look at the Beaufort Sea. Now, Beaufort Sea is rather broken up, and we've seen some ice losses into the Canadian archipelago as well, with very thin ice in the Beaufort Sea. Now, overall, the Arctic is looking rather hot, especially in the edge zones, as we will tend to see at this time of year. And the upper latitudes near the 90-degree north latitude have been near average to slightly below average in temperature, but the Arctic as a whole has been warmer than average, and we can see the effects certainly in these very large melt zones in the edge zones. I'm going to go ahead and look at a temperature anomaly map just to show you where we see the temperature differences. And as I said before, in East Siberia, we've seen very extreme warmth. This extreme warmth runs in through Alaska and the Bering region, and also in the Chukchi Sea and the East Siberian Sea. And overall, the edge zones are much warmer than normal, with some cooler than normal conditions in Greenland and about average conditions in the 90-degree north latitude zone. Now, these zones in the trough zones where you see cooler than average temperatures are not enough to tip the Arctic into a cooler than normal state. Overall, Arctic temperatures are running about half a degree Celsius above normal, which is relatively significant for this time of year, as we expect summer temperatures to moderate. Now, something that we want to look at for this time of year is sea surface temperature anomalies in the Arctic Ocean region, and I'm going to go ahead and look at that. I'm going to flip this graphic here for a second, see if we can pick up sea surface temperature anomalies. There we go. And looking at recent days, we have seen some very extreme sea surface temperature anomalies in the Chukchi Sea region. This region has been ice-free for a long time, and the Dark Ocean is starting to really get quite warm, and this pool of much warmer than normal water in the range of 3 to 5 degrees Celsius above normal may provide some melt impetus, especially if we get some warm southerly winds pushing this warm water into the current ice-covered regions. In the Beaufort, we also have a relatively large area of much warmer than normal water, although not as extensive as in the Chukchi. And in the Laptev Sea, we also have a very large region of warmer than normal water. Now, these warmer than normal sea surfaces will tend to help to cut melt zones into the adjacent regions, and this is something that we'll want to look at as we get further on into July. Now, overall, as I said before, Arctic sea ice extent is 7th lowest on record, but the Arctic as a whole looks pretty nasty in the sense of overall climate change, particularly in the East Siberian region, and as these Arctic wildfires really start to ramp up over in the Siberian zone. Thank you for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you soon.